The stunning report today involving the Catholic Church in Pennsylvania, a scathing grand jury report accusing more than 300 Catholic priests of child sex abuse. They say there are more than 1,000 victims dating back decades, and tonight some of those alleged victims in tears right there with authorities. Here's ABC's David Wright.
The blistering grand jury report names more than 300 predator priests and accuses dozens of church officials of covering up. And this is just one state, Pennsylvania.
Priests were raping little boys and girls, and the men of God who were responsible for them not only did nothing, they hid it all.
More than 1,000 victims in all. Some shared their story in a video.
I was groomed starting young.
They targeted me because I was fatherless.
He would always have his hands on me.
In case after case, the report says, church leaders maintained a circle of silence.
Predators in every diocese weaponized the Catholic faith and used it as a tool of their abuse.
The grand jury report detailed a litany of alleged crimes. A priest who abused 5 girls in one family, another who raped at least 15 boys, and still another accused priest who left the clergy, and the diocese recommended him for a job at Walt Disney World.
If there were allegations, we dealt with them immediately.
Cardinal Donald Wuerl believes the Pennsylvania grand jury investigation will vindicate the reforms he championed in 2002 to rid the Catholic Church of abusive priests quietly to another.
That wasn't our process.
In 2007, after Wuerl became Archbishop of Washington, the Pittsburgh diocese he led agreed to pay $1.25 million to settle lawsuits filed by 35 abuse survivors. How does it feel knowing children were sexually abused at the hands of priests under your watch?
Well, that's why, if that came to light, we moved to remove that priest. We're very, very sorry this happened, and that's why we've taken the steps to see that it doesn't go on.
What are the steps? Because I think a lot of victims will say, we've heard this right now, today. Children are being abused at the hands of priests in the Catholic Church.
I'm not sure that there's any way you can guarantee that there won't ever be a failure in the life of any priest going into the future. You can't do more than give your very best to trying to eradicate a problem.
A trove of documents containing allegations and admissions of sexual abuse was kept locked up in what the church calls its secret archives, with the only key in the bishop's hands.
The cover-up made it impossible to achieve justice for the victims.
Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro laid out a pattern of consistent, decades-long cover-up across the 6 dioceses. The files contained strategies that were practically a playbook for concealing the truth. Among the tactics for church record-keeping, use euphemisms, never say rape, say inappropriate contact or boundary issues. Even if a priest is raping children, keep providing housing and living expenses. Above all, don't tell the police. Handle it like a personnel matter in-house. As church officials protected predator priests, careers continued to rise.
Many have been promoted. Bishop Wuerl is now Cardinal Wuerl.
Washington, D.C. Archbishop Cardinal Donald Wuerl presided over 32 accused priests during his 18 years at the Pittsburgh
say that
diocese.
The pattern by the clergy was pretty much the same. The philosophy was not to help children, but to avoid scandal. Grand jurors say in the report that, quote, avoiding scandal appears over and over again in the documents that were recovered, and they reviewed over 500,000 internal church documents.
And for a time, some of the dioceses sought to prevent the entire report from ever seeing the light of day. In effect, they wanted to cover up the cover-up. They sought to do the same thing that senior church leaders in the diocese we investigated have done for decades: bury the sexual abuse by priests upon children and cover it up forever.
The report released yesterday says the Catholic Church used what amounted to a playbook for concealing the truth to hide decades of abuse.
The report names 301 predator priests who assaulted more than 1,000 children, most of them boys, over a 70-year span. Nikki Batiste has spent weeks reporting on this scandal. Nikki, good morning.
Good morning. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops said it is completely saddened, and the Pittsburgh bishop has apologized. This is the report, nearly 900 pages long. Its findings are drawn from more than 500,000 pages of documents hidden in secret church archives. Because some records were destroyed and many survivors are still afraid to come forward, the grand jury believes there are actually thousands of victims.
The church showed a complete disdain for victims.
Survivors wept as Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro publicly revealed the contents of the landmark grand jury report for the first time. When you saw the emotion on the survivors' faces today, what did that mean to you?
It means the world to me to be able to do this for them, to help them have some modicum of healing.
Victims and their loved ones had been anticipating the release of the report, the most sweeping examination yet of child sex abuse in the U.S. Catholic Church.
We've stood up and said our truth.
Secrets out now. Uncovered disturbing allegations, including a 7-year-old girl raped in a hospital after she had her tonsils taken out, a 9-year-old boy whose mouth was rinsed with holy water after being forced to perform oral sex, and 5 sisters abused by the same priest. How old was the youngest victim?
She was 18 months old when she was abused for the first time. 18 months old, she was in a diaper.
Touching you every day. You know, that's a hard memory to have.
The stories of survivors and the details of the 884-page grand jury report are difficult to hear.
Father Robert Malzahner groomed his middle school students for oral sex by telling them how Mary had to lick Jesus clean after he was born.
When your abuse began?
I was 10.
13, 14.
16 through 18.
17, 18.
16.
My son was 15 when it started. His hell was right here on earth.
Judy Devon says the death of her son Joey 3 years ago can be traced to what happened to him as a teenager.
Because of the way he was, and I'm not going to say abused, I'm going to say the way he was raped. At age 17, his back was injured. There's nothing they could do surgically. And because of the pain medication, his death was caused by an accidental overdose.
The word abuse gets thrown around. We're talking rapes.
Julianne Bortz and Mary McHale both say they were molested by priests at their Catholic high schools.
My abuser, when he took his collar off, he told me that he could do whatever he wanted to do.
And you believed him, your child?
And I believed him, yeah.
The collar is still a trigger for me. They murdered something in me. Something died. Everything I believed died.
How many of you believe that right now a child is being abused at the hands of a priest? How does this happen?
It appears that there's something in the DNA of the church that encourages
From
this.
Pope Francis, whose compassion has enthralled the world, not one word at today's audience. He prayed for the victims of the Genoa bridge collapse, but no mention of the abuse victims here or in Chile, where police raided the offices of that nation's
Vatican
bishops'
is saying
conference.
nothing so far about a bombshell grand jury report on sex abuse by Roman Catholic priests in
There is still no
Pennsylvania.
comment this morning from the Vatican about that devastating report that identified more than 1,000 child victims of predator priests over 7 decades. For many, Pope Francis' silence is deafening. At Wednesday's appearance in St. Peter's Square, a noticeable omission. Pope Francis not saying one word about the shocking grand jury revelations in Pennsylvania. Horrific allegations that 300 predator priests violated more than 1,000 children, enticing them with alcohol or pornography, ending in molestation or rape. He prayed for the victims of the Genoa bridge collapse, but offered no comfort to the abuse victims. Raising the question for many Catholics, where is the signature compassion this Pope has become known for? From sharing his birthday meal with the homeless to spending time with the sick and disabled, even bringing Syrian refugee families to Italy on the pay. While there have been words of apology, so far little action by the U.S. bishops, especially about those church leaders the grand jury said covered it up by moving abusive priests around. Again, all eyes turn to Rome.